Are you just filing your tax compliances on time and consider that is sufficient? Do you give an equal importance to the data which is used for filing the tax compliances? Or are you aware of the tax transparency which is shaping the UAE tax landscape over the years very significantly? So today at Kreston Menon Deep Dive, we are going to discuss a topic which is called tax transparency and which is going to be an interesting topic for finance and tax professional across GCC. So with me to discuss on this topic, I have my colleague Unnati and Maulik who will be sharing their thoughts on the topic. So starting with the first question, maybe I'll just ask Unnati, why is data suddenly so important?
Hi, Anmol. Thanks for having us. Hi, Maulik.
Yeah, Unnati.
This is surely an interesting topic. Just recently, I have had my article written on the same. So it was great to have V3 talking about the same. As you already pinned down a very important and interesting line to start with, why data is so important. As we think as a tax professionals or even a layman and even an entity base, data is the core and it's the foundation of any and everything, if you say so. So, data, if you say you are as a stakeholder or you are as the another entity in any and every department within a business or even outside, it is very important. Whether it is purchase data, sales data, anything you need to regulate to the authorities, you have to file some kind of reporting standards, whether it is auditing, accounting, and now recently towards the UAE has shifted towards the taxation norms, which are going very much in descriptive manner. So these all require data in some or the other way.
Correct.
So that data has now more strategized and streamlined towards the e-invoicing and automation level. So that's how the standardization is now a base for every data to be very thoroughly collected, reported, analyzed, and then regulated in the market.
I think well said, Unnati. And data has become important because there's a lot of technology evolution and uh, automation has happened,
Yes.
which has given more means to what we can do from data.
Perfect.
So with that, maybe the second question would I would like to ask Maulik that is e-invoicing really only about tax or it is beyond that?
Yeah, so we are talking about the invoicing since last so many times, and it's like a talk of the town. But when we actually talk about the invoicing, it's not just restricted to tax itself. It's a, I would say it's a process automation within the organization. So when you see the invoicing mechanism, it is more standardized than what currently organizations are doing currently for reporting their invoice. So maybe they are using their own mechanism to report that particular invoice. But when we talk about e-invoice, it has more standardized approach. It is more real-time reporting, and it's more like a process automation within the organization. It's not just a data reporting, right? So I would say, let's say e-invoicing is not there in place. So what organization used to do previously and what probably they were doing it right now, that they used to take a and considered one particular transaction at the end of particular period, let's say a quarter or a year end. So if there is some mistake into it, it's very difficult at times to take that corrective action on that particular time. So when e-invoicing is in place, real time reporting is there, so corrective decisions or corrective actions can be taken at that point in time. So again, it's a transformation, or I would say a process automation within the organization. So it should not be looked upon only just as a tax thing, but yes, a process automation or a transformation within the organization.
I mean, I agree to Maulik, but let's not discuss on e-invoicing today. There's a larger elephant in the room, which is data, and actually, data is driving everything. It bringing a lot of transparency. It is helping e-invoicing system to be more, beneficial. But there's a follow-up question to you that who actually uses this data? I mean, is it only for businesses or for vendors and customers or for authorities or for the economy as a whole? I mean, who uses the data the more? I mean,
Yeah.
to whom it is more beneficial?
Yeah. So very interesting question, Anmol, and probably a very broad question, but I would answer it into a VAT and a e-invoicing framework. So when we talk about e-invoicing, we say that it's a five-corner model and a real-time reporting is being made to the FTA. That is correct. FTA is going to use that data. But more broader question is by following this reporting structure itself, your buyer or your buyer's ASP, which is the corner 3 and 4, it is also an prominent and an important step. Let's say when we talk about e-invoicing is not in place, then whenever we, all these years VAT, we say that a business is received the invoice very late. They are delaying their input tax recovery. But with this reporting of the invoice to buyers and the buyer ASP, that process will also get curtailed, and they will also receive the invoice in a very standardized manner and on a real time basis as well. So the customer will receive the invoice, they will do their compliance from their end. So yes, the second leg would be the customer is using the data. When we talk about the other tangent about the transfer pricing or about the pillar 2 which is coming, so if those data is to be considered, then the business as a whole, they it will be helpful to them to take a strategic decision within the group, within the VAT group or within the CT group, or for that matter their intercompany as a whole. So the data is being used on a broader basis by all the stakeholders, be it FTA, be it your customer, be it internally within the intercompanies. So yes, it has a broader usage when it comes to the data, not just the authorities.
I mean, just to conclude, what you mean probably is that data is, of course, going to be used mainly by the businesses, but with e-invoicing, it is going to be a meaningful use, bringing a lot of transparency, uh, creating a lot of correlation between the different tax compliances. I mean, it's not only that I'm filing VAT compliances and CT compliances in isolation now. I have to have that sort of correlation between the compliances which I'm filing,
Correct.
and of course the base is the underlying data, which is now more transparent with the invoicing. Well said, Maulik.
I might Anmol add to the same, because showing of the broader picture would be the same base was what Maulik was saying, to carry forward from each and every category of stakeholders, as we say. So if you think of the government and the regulators, they use the data for economic surveys or anything relating to the reforms and initiatives and incentives to plan. Then if we come across businesses, as you said, for the analysis and for the strategic planning, it is way more used. Then if we even come across what next steps the other persons in the market would use for, then we can think of the investors and banking personnels. So they use data for their own benefits with regards to the risk assessment or the portfolios to assess within their own purview for the commercial transactions. This is what even they will look upon. And as we, as the accounting professionals and the tax professionals, we use it for our own specific category of return filings or taxation basis towards the regulations. So this is the same which different stakeholders use, but the data is the same, whether it is used by each and every department and category differently, or at a whole, or as a whole, as you already mentioned, that convergence of all the departments coming together towards e-invoicing, as what Maulik was explaining, is what now is becoming the very core. That you started off only with one purview of aspect as no, only VAT filings, then later on came with CT corporate tax filings, and now towards slowly developing towards pillar 2 and e-invoicing. So these separate buckets are now just coming together. That's what the regulators are looking forward to. And that's how the entire, just basis of return filing will now have the base of the underlying data, and how did it originate from, and what is its origination actually, which is really important in the regulator's mindset. And that's how the e-invoicing will digitize everything.
So, Unnati, do you want to throw some light on how this is important or relevant for corporate tax, VAT, and transfer pricing? If I have to keep my discussion only restricted to the three pillars of taxation in UAE or in GCC,
Right.
what does it actually means for corporate tax, VAT, and transfer pricing when it comes to data or transparency or technology or automation?
Correct. So I'll just line up with my earlier answer only. It will have a connection. So as we were discussing about the same, the entirety. So now taking it ahead, as you think as being tax professionals, when you consider one particular sample invoice, any kind of commercial tax invoice. So that invoice will have an impact, or its effect is bound to happen at each and every stages. Like for VAT, you will have the taxable supply treatment. You will think for corporate tax whether the revenue recognition is there or not correctly. Then other income will be added upon to it later on. So then the transfer pricing will come, whether it has been done correctly as per the benchmarking analysis at arm's length pricing or not. So this is how everything will relate to. And if at all it is pillar two, then those particular regulations again will have one single invoice impacting at each and every categories of taxation points, we can say so. And after that one particular invoice getting differentiated at different stages, now that's how the things are merging into one, and the e-invoicing will have each and every impact running towards just one digitization and technology driven, data driven approach. So that's how each and every category which was done separately earlier will now, as the new return also has an update, that you need to update the UBO details. What is your ownership, shareholding structure? Earlier, the ESR also questions have been included in the corporate tax returns. So the regulators are now just confirming and conversion everything into one, so that there won't be any hassle for the entities going ahead, and it will be just one single thing approaching every corner and every kind of taxation, whether excise, customs, VAT, CT, TP, pillar 2, towards e-invoicing and so on and so forth.
Okay. So I think by now we just discussed that how data is important, and with data being the base for all the tax compliances, and with technology evolvement and automation happening, there is a lot of correlation between the different tax compliances. But I just need to understand one more thing, maybe from Unnati, that can data actually influence the tax policy? I mean, maybe can data actually help the authorities to frame the policies?
Yes, very much. Because as we started my
And how fast
Yeah.
it can do it? How fast it can do it?
Yeah, so as we started the discussion with my own answer, was that the every kind of regulators, the FTA, MOF in the UAE are just planning towards the digitization and centralization. They would just want to move away from the decentralized approach of each and every tax buckets. So now all the buckets will run into one towards the e-invoicing and digitization in the same way. So that's how now tax reforms and tax initiatives and the regulators will have the same database. So what, as you as an tax professional or you as an taxpayer, I would say, so what you are entering on the Mara tax portal under separately under VAT, that same you're disclosing separately under the corporate tax return. So these all separate things. Now they are thinking to take the data from both the places and merging it into one, which will be very easier. Then you don't have to do it separately, and the data won't hit that you have not inconsistently recorded in VAT, but consistently recorded in CT. So they just want to avoid these discrepancies and inconsistencies. Now they are looking beyond that. What you have just separately disclosed, it's just not just the numbers that you have disclosed. You need to think that the supporting documentation, as we have for corporate tax, it is 7 years. The documentation part, you need to keep it. Under VAT, it is for 5 years. So now it is not just about number crunching or number punching. It is more about what is the base for that particular number arriving inside the returns. So if that is anything which is not correct or which is not in the line of the regulators, that as I mentioned earlier, VAT is having something different, but the same is not reflecting correctly in the CT, then it is a hit and it is a discrepancy. Then it will get kind of eyed by the regulators immediately that, okay, there is something wrong and you need to identify the errors, and that's how the error will be detected and will be corrected in a more regulated manner. And they will just collect the data from these two places, and they can understand that there is a supporting documentation and the data required behind both the discrepancies. So even the FTA audits are now more critical and important to deal with, because they need the supporting documentations very thoroughly. If you are not able to provide, then there would be some kind of penalties levied upon. So that's how the data can have some kind of, data supporting documentation, not just data driven numbers, but supporting documentation plays an important role.
Okay. So, if I have to add my thoughts on this question, that how this data can actually help framing the tax policy, I think data is a very important source for the FTA also, or maybe the tax authorities also, to understand where they can further uh, deploy certain more rules, policies to ensure there is no revenue leakage. Not only that, they can also use this data to simplify many things. I mean, with invoicing, we can just think of having a tax automation or a VAT return filing automation in near future. It's just a thought right now, but it is very much possible now. So there are many small automations happening, or we will see those happening after invoicing gets into play.
True.
Which will bring a lot of policy change also, more
Yes.
structured, more meaningful,
Yes.
of course simplified for businesses, and there will be a lot of I would say the tax leakage which is happening right now.
Yeah.
Of course, that may also, if there is any tax leakage which is happening, which will also get
Slowly
stopped.
reduced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, we have discussed all data importance and everything. So Maulik, I just want to ask you, what should businesses be doing today? I mean, what should be their plan of action to just ensure that they are on the edge of the evolving state right now?
Yeah. So as you rightly said that, currently it's a evolving tax structure in UAE. So by the coming time, each of the tax regime is being implemented. So business should be proactive, and they should assess the applicability of each of this VAT or each of this tax structure into their organization. When we talk about VAT, back in 2018, we did that impact assessment, how the business should adopt this regime. But let's say if you are an out of scope transaction, if you are just doing in the out of scope, then you are not a VAT register right now. But when the invoicing in place, you have to do that compliance. If you are in a free zone, you might be availing the 0%, 0% benefit. So you have to assess whether you are fulfilling all the conditions or not. If you are implementing e-invoicing, you should have your ERP capabilities, whether it is capable to do all those data fields into the ERP. You should perform the gap analysis. So there are so many things, but the organization should assess the impact of each of these regime into its business, be it VAT, corporate tax, pillar 2, e-invoicing, everything. And they should perform the gap assessment, that where is the gap. Whether they are not fulfilling any of the condition, then they have to keep the readiness to adopt this tax regime. So yeah, the business should be ready, should do the impact assessment and adopt the tax structure into the organization.
And one last question to Unnati. Are we actually moving towards the single source of truth? I mean, can we say that the data is the single source of truth now?
Yes, very much.
I mean, the answer is of course, the answer is yes, but I just want you to elaborate a little more on how, because that will again give a lot of perspective from our side to the audience, that data is really important in today's world.
Correct. So that was just a manner and kind of a base of the whole discussion,
Yes.
that it is leading towards the single source of truth slowly and steadily. That's what the regulators are planning. And as we say, e-invoicing is not just about the IT department or just one category of the cadre. It is of every department.
Correct.
It is in line for whether it is finance, whether it is tax, whether it is auditing, whether it is accounting, whether it is IT. So all, or even operations.
Yeah.
AR, AP, everything coming into one. That's how e-invoicing will look into. And that's how even the source of truth is slowly moving towards the centralized approach. That you need to have that kind of future that separates from each and every category towards the one source of truth, that is data and technology driven data, which will have a very much good support backing.
Okay, great. So before we just say goodbye to you, we just want to conclude that we discussed on how tax compliances are not just filing the returns on time. It is beyond that. The shift is happening over the years. I mean, it has now taken a good speed when it comes to data becoming the most important thing. And as as we discussed, data is the single source of truth now. It is the base for all the VAT compliances you file, whether it is VAT or CT or even transfer pricing. So, the keynote which we want to leave with this discussion is that tax compliance is not just filing the compliances on time, it is beyond that. The businesses need to understand that there is a high requirement right now to structure the base, structure the data which they have in their system, in their books, in their ERPs in a meaningful way, which not only simplifies their compliances, not only simplifies their different compliances, but also helps them bring more efficiency within the team. If you're using some data for one compliance, that can form a base for other tax compliances also. And that's where I think the authorities are also looking at the consistency, the quality of the data which you are reporting in different compliances. So before we say goodbye to you, I just want to conclude the discussion of today's topic. So the only thing which is coming out of today's discussion is that uh, tax transparency is not only just filing returns. It's more about how structured your data is, how you're filing your data in different compliances, and that brings a lot of transparency to the audience. And with that note, I just want to say that the future of compliances is, of course, technology driven. It requires a lot of automation at your end, at businesses end. So probably with e-invoicing, the businesses should definitely go ahead with doing a lot of structuring of data, so that forms the base for all your tax compliances in future. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching us.